Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
Damn it! I don't like you tampering with the supernatural.
This is episode 160, recorded September 18th, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
Now, if you had said messing with, that'd have been okay, but tampering, that's just...
There's no tampering with supernatural.
That's not cool. I am your host, Jeff Mohr. On this podcast, we cover the good, the bad, maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we discuss the monster, spirit, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. Yay. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts. Chad Hunt is not able to be with us tonight. We sorely miss him. Thinking about you, Chad. Catch you on the next one. But we do have Daphne, who's awesome, stupendous, likable as hell, and has new old headphones.
New old.
Mm-hmm.
New old.
Yeah, I was gifted some headphones when someone got a newer pair. So
Hey, cool. How you doing?
I'm doing real good. Yeah, it's nice to see you guys. It's been kind of a busy couple of weeks and I'm a little tired, but it's always nice to see you guys and talk about these awesome movies.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the haunt season.
Yes. Yay!
And also with us is Doc Rotten. How you doing, Doc?
Jazz hands. How you doing? Yeah, I thought we were going to do this silently. We would just hold up cards.
Well, you know, the first few silent films we did, instead of a quote, I played the sound of film reels. You know.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Anyway, because it's a silent film, and that's what they sound like. But have you guys, did Mikey Z contact you, Doc?
He did indeed.
Did you get your thingy?
I did indeed. And it is
good.
Nowhere near me, but it's Jaws. He gave me this cool Jaws thing. I'm sorry,
That's
I don't have it
awesome.
near me. I have it over on the table.
Well,
I'm not going to get up and walk across, but
I did.
Uh-huh.
Here's what I got.
That's so cool. Look at that. The Maltese
wow.
Falcon.
That is.
oh my God, that's so cool.
That is awesome.
It's
I
about
love
5
it.
or 6 inches. Yeah, it's brilliant. And somebody that actually pays attention to what we say, I know I've said the Maltese Falcon is probably my favorite movie a couple of times, but wow, Mikey, thanks so much. Mikey got a
Thank you, Mikey.
3D printing machine.
Very cool.
We saw Chad's The Incredible Hulk the other day,
Mhm.
and this is what he deigned as a surprise
Yes.
gift for me, and I couldn't be more thrilled.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, he knew that my favorite movie was Jaws, so I got a Jaws thing, which is
Excellent.
Awesome.
So thanks.
Wish I had it on me so I could show you. Oh gosh. Oh well. Next time. Remind me ahead of time. I'll bring it.
All right, so we are rolling into the time period where people say, hey, you haven't even talked about the movie yet. But before we do that, Decades of Horror and Gruesome Magazine partner with Play Down Media, and you can see all of the Decades of Horror on Play Down Media channels. In particular, all 3 of them, Classic Era, 70s, and 80s, are on the Wicked Horror channel. And the Classic Era is also on the Classic Sci-Fi Movie channel and the Classic Horror Movie channel. It is currently $6.99 a month or $50 for a year, which is a heck of a deal. I mean, geez, you could... Anyway. And they got lots of cool stuff. I was just looking today. I watched Dr. Blood's Coffin yesterday.
Ah,
And
nice. Wow.
you can also get some Bava, Whipping the Body, the Beast from the Haunted Cave, which is actually kind of cool, and The Devil's Partner, which I know nothing about, but I thought, wow, I haven't heard of that one. I should check. And lots of other cool stuff. The Science Fiction channel is just like fun galore. Anyway.
He's got
Check that
lots of
stuff out.
foreign movies on there too. Like there's some cool horror movies from Japan on there, and
Oh yeah. So let's see what we're talking about here. What we usually do here is start with a few basic details of the movie we're going to discuss, do first impressions, taglines, and just a general discussion, whatever we feel like talking about. Hopefully, but not necessarily, related to the movie, which we call tangentials.
There's going to be some that's not related. There's some fun stuff.
So our movie tonight is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1920, not the one starring Sheldon Lewis from MGM, but the one starring John Barrymore from Paramount. Directed by John S. Robertson, written the novel or novella by Robert Louis Stevenson, and scenario by Clara S. Beringer, who wrote the play. Cast includes John Barrymore, Martha Mansfield, Nita Naldi, Brandon Hurst, Charles Lane, and Cecil Clovelly. Clovelly. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Production company is Paramount Pictures. Filmed at the Tilford Studios at 344 West 44th Street in Manhattan, New York, or the Amsterdam Opera House, which has the exact same address. So I think that's a different part of the same building. Filmed approximately December 1919 through February. I found discrepancies about that. December 1919 through February 1920, and released on March 18th, 1920. The synopsis, as if nobody knows what Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is about. Dr. Henry Jekyll. Some say during this time period it's actually pronounced Jekyll, but I can't get anybody else to say that, so I'll stay away from it. Dr. Henry Jekyll experiments with scientific means of revealing man's hidden dark side and releases a murderer from within himself. That is all true, isn't it?
It's fairly accurate.
Pretty accurate. Okay, well, this one is Daphne's pick. So let's go to Daphne first for first impressions. Why did you pick this? And
Why did you pick this?
Why? Why?
Well, I hadn't seen it before, and that's why I picked it. And I really liked the one we saw from the 1931 with Frederick March, and so I just thought it'd be great to see this the earlier one. And my first reactions were I felt like I had a more emotional reaction to the Frederick March one. I kind of got into it more and kind of had more feels with it. But this one was a lot of fun to watch, kind of like historically. And also, I just wasn't very familiar with John Barrymore. I've definitely heard of his name, but I don't really know much about him or the other Barrymores. So that was interesting. I thought that there was some really cool shots and cool ideas in the movie. A few scenes that were really interesting that I enjoyed. And I thought Barrymore did a really good Hyde. I thought his transformation was really fun, and it got kind of dark and icky, just like it's supposed to. So I liked that.
We like dark and icky on the club.
More sci-fi.
Doc, how about you?
Hey.
What did you think of this?
This is another one that I hadn't seen. I'll confess that silent films are a little bit of a chore for me, and especially the older I get, it is that much harder to stay awake during a silent film. But I did it for this one. But I'm so happy that you picked this. I probably would never have explored it without it. Mm-hmm. And I'm always, all the performances they're oddly similar, but so much different. It's really interesting. What's amazing though, if you think about it, this movie's 103 years old, which is amazing, right? And Paramount Pictures still around. Barrymore name is still around, even lately in the news. I am definitely with you. I knew John Barrymore, right? Knew his name, but had not seen any pictures or many. I may have seen one, but I couldn't tell you which one it was. But he's known as the Profile, so I wanted to see it. And yeah, he's got this. It's definitely they. Oh my God, they use it a number of times in the film. They get a lot of like profile shots, but it's so classic. I was really amazed by two scenes. The first transformation is, which is another one of those on-camera transformations using just facial expression and lighting, and it's a great job. And of course, there's a sequence, a dream sequence. I'm going to call it a dream sequence that we'll discuss later. That I was not prepared for. It was really interesting. I had a ball with this. I don't know if it ranks any better than the other ones. It's kind of hard not to put Frederick March's one at the top. And I mean, I'll take Boris Karloff any day, even if it's a bad movie when he changes into right, even though it's a mask. But I don't know. I had a great time. Thanks for picking it.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I hadn't seen this. There was a time a while ago where I went looking for silent movie Blu-rays, and this was one of the ones I picked up.
Oh, wow, really?
But I haven't. It's a Kino Classic from Kino Lorber. And the package is great. I guess since I mentioned it, I'll talk about it now. It's got one of the first. It's got the 1912 version with Jane Cruise. That's like a 12 or 13 minute silent film on it. It also has a 15-minute excerpt from the other 1920 version that stars Sheldon Lewis from MGM, which they were doing this solely to compete with Paramount, although Paramount's came out about a month earlier. Those are the main things I can think of that are on there. But it's pretty good. There's some trouble spots in it, but God, it just amazes me what they can do to these 100-year-old films and how well they can get them to look. But anyway, I'm like Doc. I love silent films, but I got to be in the right mood. I've got to be in a mood to concentrate and focus on the visuals, right? Yep. This one, but because of our rescheduling and stuff, I watched this a bunch of times.
No, nice.
And I'm with Doc too. The dream sequence totally blew me away. I can't believe why that isn't like.
Yeah.
I mean, that may be famous to some people, but I hadn't heard of it before, and it just blew me away. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I loved Barrymore. I loved the evil character that sends him over to the dark side. I don't remember if he's Lord Carew or Sir Carew, something like that. And his daughter, the fiance, and I fell in love with the young woman that plays the dancer. Seems like there's every movie there's somebody like that I'm
need
like,
to know they.
Wow, need to know.
Gina.
So anyway, let's go forward from that. But before we do, this is the time in the podcast.
Are you going to?
Rockets when we dance.
Oh my God!
Time for taglines with Chad, as played by.
Wow, you got 3, Doc.
I got three. Yeah, I'm the guy on the soap opera that comes in for a couple of weeks. Tonight, the role of Chad Hunt will be played by Doc Rodden.
He's been in a car crash. He's in a hospital bed. His face is taped up, but he can still read the tagline.
Me, yes, Chad. Not Chad. Chad's fine. Don't think Chad's fine.
And these are some interesting taglines. Let me tell you.
All right, well, let's do this. Oh my gosh, is this them? The finest fellow I ever knew. That's what his friends called Dr. Jekyll, the vilest brute that ever called man. That's what they would call Mr. Hyde, and both were the same. Next one says,
he's fine and vile. Yeah.
fine and vile. Both are Barrymore. See him as Dr. Jekyll, loved by women, sought by society, serving the weak and the poor. Absolutely. See him as the fiendish Hyde, reveling in London's underworld dives, strewing his wake with victims of his crimes and depravity. The finest acting achievement ever shown on the screen.
That's a tagline.
That's a paragraph.
And we'll talk about that. Dr. Jekyll, beloved of women.
Of woman. There's a woman.
Beloved
Just
of
one.
woman.
Yeah, just one. Caution.
The whole genre. Gender.
Oh, that's true. Caution. Persons suffering from nervousness or weak heart are requested to stay away during one week's engagement. Stay away.
Yes. And a full, 30 some years before William Castle.
Yes. Caution. All right. The greatest piece of character acting ever filmed. Okay. See before your very eyes the most amazing change of character ever achieved by a modern actor.
I love
It's
it when
pretty
they
impressive.
have in there. Yeah.
Yes. A terrible drama of a man's soul, staggering to the human mind in its power, its immensity. The world's greatest actor in the tremendous story of man at his best and worst. I'm sure they didn't say it that way, but
This one is very strange.
And finally, to big men and brave women who love life, but assuredly not to weaklings and mollycoddles. Mollycoddles? Mollycoddles?
That's right. That's right.
What are mollycoddles?
Oh, like a sissy boy, I guess.
Oh,
That
okay.
is that is probably the best tagline I've ever heard.
Don't be a mollycoddle.
Big men and brave women
Brave
who
women.
love
Big,
life
big man.
and brave women.
I wonder if there's like, do I get canceled because I said mollycoddles?
I don't
We
know.
don't have to go look
No,
up
it's
mollycoddles.
I'll look that up later and we can actually hear the definition. I'm sure it'll say
not
it.
to weaklings and
Okay.
mollycoddles.
Mollycoddles.
You can get my big fat face off the screen now. Thank you.
Well, not till we do this. And
No.
that's been Taglines with Chad, as played by Chad.
Thank you.
It was
Chad's role in that is secure. I tell you, secure.
a valiant effort. All right, well, let's take a look at these hero posters, and I'm not even sure. This is the one I see the most. I don't know that it's the original one, but it's a Paramount art craft picture. Was on most, that was the actual production company or group. Adolf Zukor presents.
Well, it's definitely the style of the 20 posters. I like the art. I like the change in size, the proportions, right? Really accentuate the actor.
And it's not obvious, but Hyde is in the shadow there behind him.
Yeah, no, it's there. It's there.
All right, so this one features more Hyde with his hat, which we will learn more about.
Oh, that hat. Well, everybody wore it, but that hat.
I wondered what his head would have looked like if he didn't have that hat to hold it in, but we'll see.
You will find out.
And this one, I kind of like because it has that ghostly look of Hyde there, but it's just, I'd like it if there was a little more color or tint to it or something.
God, look at that dimpled chin.
Oh,
Man, it's like, well, look out, Kirk Douglas.
the font is kind of cool too. The font is kind of cool. I was going to look back at this other one. Yeah, that's okay. That's just block letters. This font is kind of.
I wonder if that's a reissue.
Oh, they all, I don't know where they are. This, I have no idea this does not look like something that would have been then.
That almost looks
still
like a
like
Mondo. That looks like a Mondo or something poster, like a modern poster.
Yeah, the character kind of reminds me of Babadook. But, and then finally, way back when they actually sometimes give you programs, saddle staple program laid out, and the bottom picture there is an ad from Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Isn't that great? Look at that shot too. Wow.
Yeah, it actually calls it Grauman's $1 Million Theater in there, but that's, yeah.
$19-20 million is huge.
And that's where the Molly Cottle quote comes from.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, look at that.
You gotta go for it.
That's a great picture of Hyde strangling somebody.
Yes. Does that? Is that? Let's talk about the players here for a second. Charles Lane plays Dr. Lanyon, who's a character that I think recurs in all of the different versions of this. And on the bottom, Brandon Hirsch plays Sir George Carew, who is the father of Jekyll's fiance, but not a very nice guy.
No, he's a bad influence. I mean, okay. So I just want to say in this film, Jekyll is like the most innocent of all the Jekylls I think I've ever seen. Right? I mean, he is like pure, and this guy just twists him. Come with me, Anakin, he says.
Pretty much. By the way, speaking of the pure heroes, Dr. Jekyll with his top hat on and just always dressed to the nines. And then our two female leads are Martha Mansfield, who plays Millicent Carew, the fiance. And there she is with Jekyll. And I was going to ask Daphne what's up with her hair, because that whole roll that kind of humps up on the top of her head, I was fascinated with that. I kept looking at that, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. But
because is her hair around her ears? Is it folded or is it cut?
I don't know. And then
it's a mystery.
Are those ringlets hanging down that don't really show up, or I don't know?
It could be. It's a mystery.
It is.
It's pretty crazy. It looks like they used to have these things called Hollywood bumpets, which were like this hair piece you'd put on your head. And that's what it reminds me of.
Oh, maybe.
Could be. But I guess it's supposed to be a period piece too, right? So
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
And then the other female lead is Nita Naldi, who plays Miss Gina, who is a dancer at the, I guess it's the higher end of the bars that we see. Not particularly high end, but that's where Crew takes Barrymore to pervert his goodness, I guess. And she is a dancer there, and she's quite the looker. And I think she would go well now. She's got the eyebrows for the modern.
She is beautiful.
More modern look.
Rather, I mean, she's rather risque for 1920, wouldn't you think? I mean, or am I overselling it?
Well, the Roaring Twenties, I think risque was there. I mean, we had nudity in the Tarzan and His Mate movie.
Okay.
With the woman swimming underwater completely nude. And that was just before the
Submarine Sullivan?
The code, pre-code. But anyway.
Well, and so I was thinking about the other, the 31 Jekyll and Hyde.
Yes.
There was a lot of sexuality, and
yes, there was.
Not necessarily nudity, but pretty close to nudity. I mean, like bare legs and.
Well, when she's dancing on the stage and we have a long shot, I swear I did a double take because I thought maybe she was sort of peeking out the top, but that wasn't the case.
Peeking out the top.
Yeah.
Hello.
Anyway.
I mean, they regardless of whether it is or not, they certainly presented her in that way because she was a huge temptation to Jekyll.
Oh, and she did. Grue goes to this one character with the pug nose. I'll show him a little bit later. That apparently owns it. He's sitting at a table center stage, and you go up to and ask him to talk to the dancer. So Grue goes up to him, gets her to come over, and I think he was a little put out that she immediately went to Jekyll. She immediately fawned over Jekyll, and Jekyll didn't really.
And he was like, "Oh, I got to go."
He didn't know what to do about it. Well, actually, and here's a shot of the innocence of the way he treats a woman. She's clutching him, but he's kind of standing back, not embracing her and fighting his demons, I guess. Or
there's that profile.
Yep.
It is.
Well, and you're talking about Sir Grue. I think he was making the moves on one of the young lady guests at the party he was having in his house.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, and there was some little piece in the paper that he read about that, right? I think that's who he is, because I was trying to figure out who he was talking about, and there was a place where it said Lord C and somebody's daughter, or it seems to be making, anyway.
And this is a man who's going to marry his daughter.
Yes.
So this doesn't.
The father of the intended, soon-to-be bride, is talking to his soon-to-be son-in-law about how he needs to get out more and, express his evil side. And what if you've never lived? I'm just kind of like, what in the world is he doing, and why is he doing this? Is this just the way he thinks a man should be, or is he trying to? It's just a power thing to convert.
I think it might be the former. I think he might just like, man, you're not a real man.
That's how I took it.
Yeah. He's like, come on, man up. And not that I'm saying that's what he should do. I'm just saying what the character.
Understood. Yeah.
So
Molly Bullock me or whatever the thing.
Molly
Golly. But what's interesting, I know I'm stating the obvious here in a second, but everything is body language, right? Because there's silent, no dialogue. But it really is interesting watching John Barrymore's body language in this movie is extraordinary. You can see the stardom there. You can see why this film was, they praised him as it was his film. They didn't really praise the film as much as they did the actor. Even I looked at some of the reviews that are online from the original days, and they were all about John Barrymore, not necessarily the film. Although they did often call Hyde the most repulsive thing on screen, which is interesting. But yeah, it's just the body language that he has, right?
Yeah, he was amazing. He really was. I understand why he has such a reputation.
He was so perfectly erect and forthright, as Jekyll, but then Hyde becomes this. Okay, mollycoddle.
Oh, here we go, mollycoddle.
A timid or oversensitive man or boy. And if you and if as a verb, it means to treat someone in an indulgent or overprotective way.
Okay.
So, mollycoddle.
Sounds like we should just let that one go.
I'm incorporating that into my vocabulary.
No, I don't think that's a wise idea.
So yeah, Jekyll right off the bat, and then the other thing he does is he like the other version, I think, like the story. He's a doctor, and he spends a lot of time going to treat the poor for nothing and
for free.
His compatriots think he's a fool for doing that.
Yep. And they play that up much more here than I recall in other versions. I mean, it's always there, but I guess it's because it's so deliberate and, it's so, the way they, because of the acting is so there and they take their time with it. And you see it and you read the card and it's just, I don't know. That made quite the impression just how goody two shoes he was right before he turned Hyde. Straight up guy.
Yeah, he was. All right.
I was just sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking how you were talking about Sir Carew and his motives, and this part that we're talking about here, what his friends or his equals were talking about. I almost wonder if it was like, oh, it's too good. You're too good to be true. It's like they couldn't tolerate somebody that good. You know what I mean? So it's like you gotta taint him a little bit. He's too perfect.
It absolutely seemed like that. Yeah.
Like it was a threat.
Oh, you might be right. It was threatening. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was thinking too, maybe he wanted this other character that was hanging around, Utterson, for his daughter, and so was trying to
sour the relationship.
Turn her, but I don't know.
Scumbag.
I'm reading that in. It really wasn't.
He is a scumbag.
He's a scumbag.
No matter what, he's a scumbag.
Anyway,
it certainly was ill intent. Whatever he was doing, it was not doing Jekyll any good. Jekyll needed to impress him because he wanted to marry his daughter and open the wrong doors. So can we talk? I mean, the other actors that we were mentioning, some of them really held their own, like the guy we're talking about, but others, like whoever the actor was that's with him as is kind of the guy that's
friend.
He's kind of the Charles Lane guy. I mean, he's good and he has great presence, but when compared against Barrymore, it's like it was almost night and day. I mean, because and they're both taking these long exaggerated actions, right, to sell the character, but it was just the contrast between those two really just shines on what Barrymore is. But there's another guy in here that I thought made a great presence, and then we'll get to him. I'm sure Jeff is going to show a picture.
I don't have a picture of anybody else than what we've already.
Well, he's in a photo. We'll talk about the boxer guy that owns the thing, and he just makes a great presence. But,
we had these other kind of characters. So
there he is at the top. Yeah. I mean, he just looks. I mean, I know he just looks like a character from that time, doesn't he? I mean, he just fully embodies the bad guy you think from like an 1880s or novel or something, right? Or 1800s, right? It just has that. It was a great character, and that picture at the top is one that I recall seeing in all the monster mags and books back in the day when I was a monster kid, and that's the one. That's like my only exposure outside of maybe the hands and there's another one with the head, but of this film.
He definitely gets that feel across of like the underground or like the seedy underside of the city, and
even his intertitle card when he says something is written in like a Cockney accent.
Yep. A lot of local color in it. What they used to call it, right?
He's the guy that you go to if you want the dancers or the performers to pay attention to you, to come over and sit with you and have a drink or whatever.
And he's definitely kind of holding court there, like you were saying. People had to come to him. He was almost like a ringleader in the circus or something.
I mean, he was literally in the center of the thing, on a platform with a
sat there by himself. Right. We've got a picture of Hyde there, so I should get to the Hyde, what he looks like. But this woman at the bottom was just like, she's just standing there on the corner yelling at people as they go by. It was interesting.
Was she a lady of the night? Was she? Or was she just a street lady?
I don't know. I didn't see
her.
Probably. probably.
Because she wasn't exactly the most.
Anyway, so
Because
she was outside.
Hyde meets Miss Gina at the bar
Mm.
and, controls himself and leaves, but he goes back to his laboratory to mix up a concoction.
I think. Did you say Hyde? You meant Jekyll, right?
Oh, Jekyll, yes.
Yeah.
Jekyll restrains himself, goes back to his lab, mixes up his potion, and then has a transformation.
It is quite brilliant. The transformation.
Oh yes,
it is, and he they even got the the smoke coming up. This movie, I never knew where they figured this out. I've read descriptions of it, like in Wolfman, when they have the conversion of the makeup and they call them lap dissolves, and I think it's like just overlapping exposures, I guess, but
which they kind of do later in the film.
They kind of do that here. Yeah.
But not at the beginning.
Right. Not at the beginning. So he drinks the stuff and goes into this whoa. And
that top photo is
okay.
awesome.
So it's all body language. It's
Yep.
he ruffles his hair, sticks to his chin, and gnarlies his fingers, and he looks scary as hell.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then the bottom, amazing. Right in the bottom, he's scrunching up the shoulders. He's really pushing that chin out. Look at that.
Yeah. So that's the first transformation, and when he goes to the bar, he looks much terribler, worse later on. Kind of like in the Frederick March version is kind of like that too, where the transformation gets more and more.
Because that transformation in the mirror for that one is really.
Yeah.
But look at those hands! Oh my God, those hands!
His hand is what they show that shot of his hand, and wow, are those fingernails gnarly? And then he has them on that book, and then he puts them up to his face in that top shot.
They're obviously extensions, but wow, do they?
Yeah. Speaking of extensions, did you notice in the scene where he comes back and takes a potion and turns back to Jekyll and he thrashes around? You see one of those finger.
Oh no! Can you see one fly off?
You see it go flying off. You just see something go flying off.
I heard about that when I was reading it, but I didn't notice it. I was too into watching.
Once you see it, you can't not see it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I bet.
That is hilarious. No, I didn't know.
Man, those fingernails, God.
So I was trying to figure out. So his hand there, like you said, has prosthetics, but at this point, he doesn't have any sort of extra makeup on his face, right? That's just totally his face.
But
okay.
If there is anything, it's there's a thing they did in the old black and white silent films with lighting and makeup. So there was makeup that you could put on that wouldn't show in certain lighting, but if you change the lighting, it would. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some of that. I'm not speaking out of anything I've read. There is a famous transformation in another film that very much used that, and it kind of gave me the same.
What's that in? Because I know we talked about that.
Isn't it? I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but it's the witch, the girl that turns into the witch, right? Anyway, we don't spend time on that.
Yeah. The reindeer one?
No. This is old. This was an old one.
Old.
And I think it might even be silent. I don't know. I think it might even be a Chaney movie, but I'm speaking out of turn now. But it's just a technique that they use, and I feel like that might have been, a plot here. But at the same time, it's all him. It's all body language. And
well, then we go to.
But later.
The next stage.
Man.
Well, now he's got teeth, right? And now he's got eyeshadow, and
and those teeth are about like the fingernails. Right. I mean, wow.
And his nose, he's got things in his nose to make his nose holes wider, right? So,
but he looks completely different. I mean, it's so cool.
If you look at that top picture, I think that's some of that kind of makeup that you're talking about, Doc.
Yeah.
And it's I probably some of these I messed with them to make them lighter or change the contrast a little so we could see them, and I
Mhm.
think that's what makes those lines stand out a little more rather than.
Mm.
But wow, what that's during the show, wow, that's just
because the
What
bottom
a
one
hero.
the bottom one he walks toward the camera like
Yeah.
that, and
That was a great shot.
I could see in the 1920s having nightmares.
Yeah,
watching
that was a great shot. That was so good.
alrighty.
There were some scenes that were really, maybe not as scary as you. They're not scary now, but they are a little bit. They're just creepy, and then like you said, Doc, you imagine at the time. Ugh.
Well, I mean,
Scary.
I just remember, like, in 1931, Frankenstein gave people nightmares. It's not going to give anybody nightmares now. I mean,
Right.
my grandma would tell me how Frankenstein gave her nightmares.
Mhm.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
it's just at the time, and
Mhm.
you're seeing this on the big screen. You
Right.
really don't see that everywhere. There's nothing to. You're not, desensitized.
That would
at
freak
all.
me out.
Yeah,
You're watching that
so creepy.
yes.
And if I read right, this thing was a pretty big hit, right?
Yeah, I think so. I could find nothing in terms of budget or box office on my sources.
Yeah, I guess.
So I mentioned before. So here is Jekyll with women, right?
And
He's beloved by woman,
Beloved.
but then Hyde, they're all cringing and pulling away and pushing him away, and he's just like coming in on him and
yeah,
touching and being
all hands. Yeah.
handsy. So that's Gina on top and Millicent on the bottom, and that's quite the outfit as well. That hat. And
I was going to say that's a hat, right?
Yeah.
I thought I had a great time. You've awakened to me to wardrobe, Daphne.
I know, it's so cool.
I'm wardrobe woke.
Wardrobe woke. Well, like when Gina was dancing, just how she used that shawl, and it just made me wonder about, kind of what about that dance more because of the shawl and everything.
Right.
It just
So those are the two leads, but that's not all he inflicts himself on. This is the top
anyone,
one is
anywhere.
when he goes into the really dive bar that I think has like an opium den upstairs. And look at his head. Look at his head. I mean,
no.
That's why I was kind of joking about the hat.
The hat, yeah.
It's like he takes that hat off and his head is shaped like the hat. It's Neanderthal.
So gross.
Yeah, they're definitely implying that he's reverted back to,
I think that the actors that played the women did a really good job of making you feel just how repulsive he was, because you could just feel that.
That's the same woman in the bottom picture, just a different time. His hat's on for one, and then the woman behind him in the bar is the barkeeper, the owner.
Yeah.
Oh, that head.
The hair. I mean, it's just everything.
Yes.
Just
Now, obviously, there's makeup now, so
yes.
There's no way he could physically do that. Or could he?
And then one last Hyde with women. There he is again. I think.
Yeah.
That's Millicent in front of him.
I think so too. Yeah.
But the look on his face. And then the one at the bottom is just one I threw in because I liked her character.
Yeah.
He has to find a place to operate from, so he rents this room, and this old woman comes out, and I swear they don't really say anything about her, but it just seems like she's just laughing all the time.
Yep.
Doesn't it? I mean, he comes up and applies. She shows him the room. She's laughing. Then they come looking for him, and she's laughing. Oh, you're looking for that guy? So.
I like the lighting in that bottom one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had. I noticed at one point anyway. These pictures from all different sources, but at least on the one that I watched, they tended to go with the kind of more of a sepia tint for daytime and that sort of blue tint for nighttime. which was kind of cool. I don't know if they did that in the restoration or if they did that when they made the movie.
That lady you were just talking about, what I liked about her performance was she was laughing all the time, but always felt like she was just laughing to appease them, kind of keep them at bay. Like she knew that I got the impression that she like knew exactly who she was running these rooms to.
Yes.
No good things were happening behind those doors, but that's just what she did to kind of, I don't know. I liked the performance by that actor.
Then let's see where I had that. So he dumps, I don't know, apparently, as time goes up by, Gina moves in with him.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Yeah. And then at some point he comes home and tells her, kicks her out.
Mm-hmm.
And when he goes into that dive bar, she's in there, isn't she?
Yeah.
And then he just looks at her and turns and goes for this other woman and tries to, is that the one he drags up to the opium den?
I think so, yeah.
Very weird. But here, I just threw this on here. So Nita at the beginning is so beautiful. And then that's when she's showing a little bit of apprehension at the top to being called over by Hyde. But the bottom one is the way she looks. I think in the bar or when he kicks her out, and she's just.
I think that's at the bar afterwards, and she actually, like, he doesn't even notice that she's there, and she goes up to him, and starts interacting with him, and he just couldn't care less. And it was a really powerful scene too.
Yeah,
definitely had a ill influence on her as well. I would imagine that she's addicted to the opium and stuff and whatever debauchery that they
right, because that is that picture on top. It was kind of like a seedy bar that she was at originally, but it was the bottom one was like seems like dangerous, and like the bottom, like she was at the bottom. That's the only place she could be anymore, and
and her eyes are just dead, She goes from
look at those sunken cheeks,
this beautiful, happy person to that. So then Hyde at some point he's starting to go a little overboard, right?
You think?
So Grue, this is sort of that top pictures. Grue's got, it's hard to see, but he has this really disgusting leer on his face. He's trying to convince Jekyll to
being
cross over. That one time at the dinner table, he kind of looks at the other guy and goes, he like pops his eyebrows a couple times, like, I think I got him.
Do it. Do it.
He has to pay for it. And this is where he meets up with Hyde, and Hyde beats him to death, chases him out the door, and beats him to death outside.
Isn't that the character that's getting strangled in the poster?
Yes. Okay. And when I watched it, I saw, like I said, I watched it several times. This exact scene and that one from that poster are not in the movie. That doesn't happen that way. They kind of wrestle around, and he runs out the door, but there's no place where he's got him laid over that table or desk or anything.
Probably a promo shot.
Stills, promo stills or something. But they're still very.
Well, it's pretty. That poster you were talking about is pretty kind of violent and graphic, kind of surprisingly powerful, and the violence that Hyde uses against Grue when he's killing him, he just does not stop hitting him with that cane. He just keeps going.
Oh, and look at the head. That's not
know.
Just that's a lethal weapon for sure.
5-iron.
So he has to run from there. And so this is his next. I can't remember if that's before or after, but I'm gonna do this next. he runs out in the street, and out of nowhere we see this. And I think these two kids in the family that he cares for when he's Jekyll. He has that woman with her kids. I think these kids were with them. Anyway, the one kid comes out, he runs across the street riding his little broom horse, and Hyde just runs up and knocks him down and stomps on him. That's his brother, I assumed, or the other kid. He was mad at him and shaking his fist at him, and that is actually Jack McHugh. That one I know. But he's billed as street kid, raised his fist to Mr. Hyde. Must be him. But Jiminy Christmas. I mean, that kid's on his face in the gutter that he's holding and pushing and stomping on him or stepping on him, whatever. Bunch of people run up, and then he doesn't even run away. They get him there, and he's like, oh, I'll compensate for you. I'll compensate this for you. Really? He goes and writes him a check for £100. Actually, it's a check to bearer from Henry Jekyll for £100. Like, £100, right? I was trying to tell if he killed the kid or not, but all you see is people carrying the kid. I think he was just injured.
Traumatized.
So we talked about the dream sequence, and this thing just absolutely blew me away. The Hyde spider, and I hope if you're watching this, you put it on a little bit bigger screen, but he's sleeping and he wakes up and there's this thing at the foot of the bed, and it crawls up the bed right on top of him, and then kind of melds right into him, disappears right into him. And while he's laying there in bed without anything else happening, he turns to Hyde after that thing.
It's not the potion anymore. He's changing.
He's lost control.
That was so amazing. I wasn't prepared for it either.
Yeah, it reminded me of like George Malloy films, when they would do the overlays and stuff.
Right.
And,
it's a
so effective and so
double exposure.
Weird design. Yeah, double exposure, weird design.
And I think I read somewhere, and then when I looked really close, I think that is the Hyde Barrymore on his hands and knees with sort of a spider appendage with furry legs on top of him. And so he's the one that's crawling, going up, but holding his hands out. And there's a couple spots, and you kind of see it in that top picture where he's faded away. You can see his little pointy head kind of sticking up there.
Yeah, the bottom one has a pointy head. Yeah, definitely.
The bottom one, this spider thing that's got a Hyde head. Oh my God,
it's hairy. It's hairy.
When that showed up, I'm like, what the?
I think we mentioned this beforehand, but I'm surprised that this isn't.
Yeah.
The people don't talk about this particular scene more.
I had no idea about this scene, and then when it happened, I was like, "Oh my God, that is so cool!"
If you search Hyde spider, you get a whole bunch of stuff on it. So it's fairly well known in some circles, but it's not like the thing that's out there that everybody thinks about. And I think it just blew me away.
Yeah, I wonder if it. Is there any history to it? I'd love to hear if there was like, because I would imagine this would be cut from some scene. That they would cut this from some areas, especially like down the south. That this particular scene wouldn't make it. The kid scene too, right?
So this is when he figures out I'm doomed now. My potion's gone. I can't find any more chemicals. He sends his manservant all over looking for the chemicals. You can't find them anymore. And now he knows he's doomed to live out the rest of his life as Hyde.
The thing that I like about, like, when I was like reacting to this movie and stuff, the thing that I liked about what you've got here, these three pictures, is like in the first one, it looks very, real, like it's actually there, and then slowly how it changes into the see-through. And I know that that's probably what they had to do just to make it work at the time, but I feel like it also gives the feeling of like this weird kind of unreality, or like in between space that kind of just makes it more creepy to me. This of like, is this really happening? What's going on? What does this represent? I feel like it did a really good job getting that point across of that he is changing to this horrible person permanently. He's being taken over. I don't know. It was just really cool.
I don't think I've ever seen it in any other version. Anything like that, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even when we've talked about the other Jekyll and Hyde movies, when we were talking about the March one, I didn't hear anybody ever say anything about the spider.
Well,
I heard them say John Barrymore, the John Barrymore version and stuff like that, but right. I didn't. That was all I heard.
It's definitely not in Dr. Jekyll's Sister Hyde.
No.
It's not different. In the Jack Palance one from the 60s that we covered on Classic Era. Mm-hmm. It's not in the Frederick March one. Mm-hmm. So, and it wasn't in these other shorts that I watched. I'll briefly touch on them here later.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it got in there and why the director,
Well, it's such a great symbol too of his evil consciousness lurking and coming and taking him over. Mm-hmm. An ugly evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very ugly. So yeah,
nightmare fuel.
Great stuff. And then finally, this is sort of the beginning and the end, I guess. I mean, we have Jekyll at the top, helping the poor, and then at the bottom, that's him after he's died, and he's taken this. I didn't have a picture of this, but he takes this ring from Nita that has poison in a compartment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a nice little flashback about that earlier.
And she tells a story about, somebody that was it her aunt or somebody gives it to her, and so he takes that ring and he takes the poison as Hyde, and then thrashes around, runs around a bunch. Lanyon comes in and sees him. Hyde is leaned back in the chair with his head back like that, and then he slowly changes to Jekyll. So literally, Lanyon is the only one that's alive that knows that Jekyll and Hyde are the same guy.
Same person,
yeah. And he lies to him.
He
says Hyde killed him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which isn't incorrect.
Which is true. Yeah.
It's a little white lie.
But that was a great. There's something about that shot.
Yeah.
When it was, and I tried to find one with Hyde too, like that, but I didn't see a decent one. But I thought that was really.
What I like I know you're going to talk about these other silent films in a little bit because I watched them too. One of them has a scene that's very much like this, except for they're like breaking down the door with axes and stuff. A little bit more, more violently than this one because they're just trying to get in.
And I really was wondering, it really had my suspense of like, is he going to get caught? Are they going to figure out that it's the same person? Because in some of the other ones, people do find out more than just one person. Yeah. But here it was just his friend.
Yeah, so Millicent doesn't know that he killed her father, etc.
Now she just gets to inherit as well.
The one thing nobody can figure out why he signed everything over to Hyde. Mm-hmm. What's going on? Well, we got to find Jekyll and talk to him about this, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and why did he sign the check for £100? I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
That clues in one of the characters, right? To kind of figure it out. I forget.
He signs everything. He tells his servants just whatever he wants, give it to him. Mm-hmm. And he's the only one that has a key to the lab now. Mm-hmm. The servant doesn't even have a key to the lab.
but I don't think anybody saw Jekyll much anymore, so they didn't even. They weren't even really able to talk to him about it or anything. Yeah.
So yeah, we mentioned this. There was several Hydes in this time period. So there was one in 1912 played by James Cruz, I think, and that's about a 13-minute. And that's got a very good transfer of that on the Kino Lorber disc. So that's what he looks like. And I swear those teeth, this is on the top left, those two teeth, they look like they were like cotton plugs, you know.
No, really?
They just didn't
look wax right, fake one.
You know? They just weren't right. You know, I think they were flexible or something. It just seemed weird. But he was nasty. And then the one on the right is a guy named King Baggett that was in another one that was I want to say it was 30 minutes in 1913. And then the next one down, kind of the middle left, is Sheldon Lewis in the MGM version in 1920.
That's pretty creepy. But
they're all kind of similar. Mm-hmm. I swear the guy on the top right looked like Jerry Lewis in the Nutty Professor.
No, the Nutty Brother. Oh my God, which is Jekyll and Hyde.
We should maybe do that sometime. But anyway.
Oh my God, that'd be a blast.
So you said you watched these, Doc?
I watched them, but I think did I watch another one too? But I don't know. I watched one or two of them. I saw the one at the top with the teeth.
The top left?
Yeah.
Yeah, the top right one is not very good quality when you go to find it. And the version of Hyde that he's playing is just, he literally is walking around like if you kneeled and then started walking without rising up.
Like that Tim Conway character.
Well, not quite like that.
Oh my God.
Not Dorf.
Yeah, Dorf.
I mean, like if he squatted.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He squatted and then he's moving his legs and walking and all hunched over, and he's just squirrely. And then that shot right there's hardly any shots where he's still and you can get a look at his face because he's just so crazy. That's a shot where he's looking in the window of a bar. Anyway, and so Doc, did one of the ones that you watched, one of the ones I watched had a scene where the building gets burned down? Did you see anything like that?
I don't recall that. What I recalled was what struck me was the ending was so similar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was what struck me. I was more interested about the transformations and the characters than watching the entire
film.
The
thing that struck me about the fire is they have fire trucks come and they're actual vehicles. So they've changed the time frame. It's not a horse-drawn fire engine, but it's a very weird-looking fire engine. It's almost like a tricycle, like a big truck that had one wheel up front and two big ones in the back chugging. Anyway, I think maybe it was might have been this other, the MGM one with Sheldon Lewis, which has almost no pictures. But it's just interesting to me that they had this many of them. And then if you go and look at Jekyll and Hyde and all the different versions of it, it's just every time you turn around, there's a TV movie of it through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even 90s, I think.
Because there's one from 1913, one from 1912.
That's the two at the top here.
Yeah, and then the other one 1920. So because I'm looking at where I looked it up. I think it's the 1913 one, Carl Lemley's.
Yes, Carl Laemmle,
Laemmle. Sorry, I mispronounced it.
Yeah. But hey, soon to be the chief of the Universal horror stuff, the father of Carl Laemmle Jr.
Interesting.
Well, you haven't talked about John S. Robertson.
Yeah, I haven't. So go ahead.
Well, he was basically a director of a lot of these silent films. I mean, bunches, but this was his greatest success. But what's interesting, and you may know this better than me, but the Byrds, not the movie, but the band, had a 1967 song called John Robertson that was inspired by this director. Apparently, this guy had the handlebar mustache that you see in a lot of the movies.
Oh wow!
So I don't know. I don't know if you know anything about the John Robertson song from the Byrds, but I just found that fascinating. That years later.
There's a picture of in Wikipedia under the story Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, is an actor named Richard Mansfield from 1887 from the stage adaptation, a double exposure of him as Jekyll and then crouched down as Hyde. 120 stage and film versions.
Wow.
That's what it says. So holy cow. And frankly, we have a piece of feedback later on that references the Manster as being a Jekyll Hyde story.
Okay.
And it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
One
where there was no problem going bad by that guy.
Yeah.
It was Mr. Hyde and Mr. Hyde.
Not much of a fight at all. Yeah.
No fight.
The two-headed Jekyll and Hyde. So I like this a lot. I'm glad you picked this because it takes something like this. I think this is the I'll put a list on the blog, but I think this is the 8th or 9th silent film that we've done, which is probably about right with episode 161 out of every 20 as a silent film. And there's still plenty we can do. So it was a good pick. I thought maybe the Manster prompted you to pick it, but let's do that.
Well, no, I think I was thinking about it after we watched the other version, and maybe Mikey Z or somebody had made a comment. Some of the feedback had made a comment about the Barrymore version.
Yeah, I think I do.
So it stayed in my head. Yeah,
I do. I think Mikey Z said, now you have to do this, the Barrymore version.
Now you got the,
but I think
the Tracy version and
the Manster. I mean, maybe it did trigger like, let's look at this more closely.
Yeah, he says to Carew says to Jekyll, the only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. Now there's some twisted thinking.
And I thought it was interesting that because when I was reading about different versions of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, they would talk a little bit about kind of how Jekyll morally saw what he was doing. And I think it was in this one where Jekyll was like, you completely separate the two parts of who you are, and the bad part goes and does its thing, and it kind of saves you. You could still be good, and it doesn't affect you at all. Like you completely are separate. And I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
We talked. I think we did this offline a little bit, but the Barrymore family. John is like, to me, was like a famous actor that I didn't know much about.
Yeah,
like a phantom legend almost. The people I knew about was Lionel Barrymore, who most modern audiences probably remember him from It's a Wonderful Life. He's the gnarly old rich guy that's trying to screw over George.
Mr. Potter?
Yes, Mr. Potter. But he was also in, I think is it called The Devil Doll? It's a great 30s horror movie where he makes these little, almost like voodoo doll mannequins that I think they move. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. We'll have to do that.
Devil Doll.
But he's the evil guy. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a Todd Browning movie.
Yes, The Devil Doll, Lionel Barrymore. And Ethel Barrymore plays a lot of stately old women. She's in a couple of like horror adjacent film noirs too that I've talked about doing. I think she's in the Spiral Staircase, just off the top of my head. Anyway, yeah, we will definitely have to do the Double Doll sometime. Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he plays an old woman in that. Lionel Barrymore has a disguise as an old woman.
In the Double Doll?
Anyway, yes. We're gonna have to do that. It's been a while since I saw that. All right. Any other final comments on Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, 1920?
Well, I know we talked about the soft line, but the actor who played Millicent, Martha Mansfield, died really young because a costume she was wearing on a movie caught fire and she was really badly burned and died shortly after that. I thought that was really sad.
Yeah.
I giggle afterwards, but it's a costume of hoop skirts with flimsy ruffles got caught on fire, and then some people that she was on the scene with tried to help put it out, but she was really burned and just died very young, 24 years old.
So sad.
Mm-hmm.
Nina Naldi, this was her first film.
What's that?
And she was offered the part by John Barrymore, was the one that pointed her out, I guess. And it said she kind of reached her peak in 1922 or 1921. I'm sorry, 1922. Blood and Sand, a Rudolph Valentino movie. So anyway, and she would go on to be his most frequent co-star. She was 25, I think, when this movie was made.
I'm sorry. I thought she was 24 when she died, so I must have been.
No, Nita. This is Nita.
Oh, Nita. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She lived to 1961. So also in Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, the first early one, not the 1956 version.
And
Anyway.
I think we said this earlier, but it bears repeating that, of course, John Barrymore's granddaughter is Drew Barrymore today. So
Oh yeah.
I'm sure
I started going there in the talking about the family, and then left it out.
Yeah. And John Drew Barrymore was in like War of the Zombies and stuff like that. And Jade was in movies too, but yeah, you get the idea.
Barrymore. All right. Well,
it's quite the legacy family, right? So
this movie, it was streaming like all over the place here. It was on Tubi. It's on Hoopla and Canopy, which are the two linked to library card. You have a library card, you get 6 watches per month. Crackle, Criterion, Screenbox, Prime. It was on Prime. So varying degrees of the quality of the picture, but still it's available all over the place for free, basically. So check it out, or even go to Kino Lorber and buy the Blu-ray. It's a good one. All righty. There's actually there was like a 3-minute audio of a guy that acted out like an actor doing the transformation scene on a record.
Wow.
Which is kind of interesting. I don't know. I love listening to that stuff and wondering about where they came from and all that stuff. All right. Well, we should stop and we should move to feedback. And everything we have this week is on the Manster.
Ah, cool.
Ooh, wow.
So I'm gonna take the first one.
Okay.
Because this guy commented on Planet of the Vampires, if you remember.
Mm.
It said, oh, now you need to do Journey to the Seventh Planet. So he comes back on the Manster and says, I first saw Manster. This is Guy Grip 9634. I first saw Manster on Summer Sunday in 1970. I was 7. The blonde, the Manster's wife, was in Circus of Horrors and an episode of One Step Beyond.
One step beyond. Sorry.
Guys, great that you read my comment. Wow, thank you. Yes, Journey to the Seventh Planet was some scariness. Same writers as Planet of Vampires. Sorry, I type in caps. I can't see on my cell phone. And I think I made some crack about, when you type in caps, it sounds like you're screaming at us. So my poor attempt to be funny and not taking advantage of. But I meant to. And I since then have watched Journey to the Seventh Planet.
Oh, have you? Oh,
it was on one of those. I think it was on the classic sci-fi channel. And it's pretty fun.
All right.
Cool.
So I'm just pulling this up quickly. The writers for that. Oh, Ib Melcher. So Planet of the Vampires. Screen story and screenplay, the English version. Yep. Ib Melcher. You got to believe it. Guy Grip is absolutely right, and we will have to do this at some point. It's just
Sounds good.
It's just a trashy 60s science.
Trashy! I hope it's campy, not trashy, but we'll take trashy if we have to.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. All right. Let's see. Doc.
Yes.
You
we do
take
Gregory?
one from Gregory Crosby. Yep.
Gregory Crosby says, the Manster. This is one of the many obscure horror films I watched during the last year of the lockdown. And it is indeed an exerciser in WTF. There are doubtlessly many riffs on Jekyll and Hyde that are more sleazy, but none quite so cheesy. Man, that's a lyric. That's a lyric in a song. Highlights include a truly mad doctor who simply waits for random visitors to experiment on. Only one more hapless bystander to weird science is the jogger at the beginning of Scream and Scream Again. Okay, I like that. And truly a wonderful, terrible two-headed monster reveal that's ridiculous and sublime. Well, mostly ridiculous. But what fun! The fact that this was actually shot in Japan only enhances the enjoyable oddness of this. Is it good? Is it bad? I think we can all agree that it's a rare example of a split decision. Oh, I see what you did. Yes.
I think, this is like this
my
really a writer,
goodness.
right?
It's good.
He's a poet. Or sleazy, not so cheesy.
Oh.
And he is a poet, if you don't remember. So, that's split decision.
Ridiculous.
It is. It's terrible and it's great.
Great.
I'm
At the
of
same
two
time.
minds
Yeah.
about it.
All right.
There's so many
Sometimes-
layers. There's so
Sometimes
many
I'm
layers.
just beside myself.
Well,
on
do
how
a
I
show
feel
on
about
Gregory Crosby. Yes. Split decision. All right. And we have one from Mikey Z. Daphne, could you take that one?
Sure. It's from Mikey Z. Glad you guys finally got around to this. Loved this as a kid. Saw this on New York City horror-themed Saturday night show as a kid in the mid-'60s.
Wow.
Daphne called it correctly as wonderfully weird. Part soap opera, part Jekyll and Hyde. I always like the duality in man theme in films, whether it be a werewolf film, Jekyll and Hyde, or a possessed person fighting their dark half. The eye on the shoulder scene freaked me out as a kid, and the final split scared the crap out of me. The pain that Larry experienced during that scene got to me. No one to really root for here, all despicable characters. Great podcast, Grue-Crew, to a film that brings a lot of fond memories back from my childhood. Love you guys. Keeping it classic.
Yes.
Keep it a classic.
Thanks, Mikey.
Thank you, Mikey.
Thanks, Mikey. In more ways than one. And I'm not saying all of our listeners should send us stuff.
Oh my gosh.
You have no idea how much I appreciate this.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And it ain't, I don't know how much time it takes to come up with he's got to get the solid model. Because the way these usually work is you import a solid model, and then the software slices it into thin layers, and then it prints a layer at a time as it goes up. So it's not fast, is what I'm getting at. So this is impressive. And I asked him about post-processing. He said this was how it came out. This kind of shiny.
Wow.
I just am so impressed by this. This stuff used to cost tons of money, and I could actually afford this.
Uh-oh. I see something coming.
All right. Thanks, Mikey. Thanks, Gregory. And thank you, Guy Grip.
Guy Grip, Gregory, Mikey.
Excellent. Thank you. Love feedback. Give us
And
more
no
feedback.
doubt, Journey to the Seventh Planet will come somewhere down the line. Mikey, when you say, glad you guys finally got around to this, I feel like, we're covering like 5 decades.
There's a lot in this.
And we're just getting up to 200 in the 70s. It got plenty to go. So we're doing our best. And we're pretty random about it too. There's no real thought gone into here's the progression that would work.
I know. It's just like, what am I in the mood for next time?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
So anyway, and sometimes people make suggestions that either are hard to find streaming or the quality is so bad we don't want to do it. Like 70s?
There's a couple of them in the 70s.
What's the Girdler film we're always looking for?
Oh, the Exorcist one.
I always want to say Mandy, but it's not Mandy.
It's not Ruby.
Abby?
Abby. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is a lost one because of, there's a story there. Go to the 70s and find out.
Go to the 70s, an
Go to the
awesome
70s.
podcast.
All right, true believers. That's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up, I should quit saying 1920. Well, I need to put a longer ago cutoff because there's plenty of stuff we could do.
I think you're okay.
I
Okay.
got a couple in mind, and we've talked about doing maybe a show on silent shorts, or just
that's right.
of any kind, all right.
Or the Nutty
Next
Professor.
up is one chosen by Doc. What are we doing, Doc?
Oh, we're doing. Oh, well, talking about cheese. We're doing The Alligator People from 1959.
Yes.
I love this film simply because of the design of the alligator person and Lon Chaney walking around with a hook. That's all I want in my life, in my movies. That's all you need. Oh, this movie. I can't wait to see it with purpose. I've seen it many times just to kind of laugh at it, but I gotta see it with purpose. Can't wait.
Well, I was looking it up, and I didn't realize the makeup is by Dick Smith and Ben Nye.
I didn't realize that either.
Talk about an all-star cast. And the other thing I noticed is cinematography was by Carl Struss, who did the cinematography for the Frederick March, Jekyll and Hyde, and Island of Lost Souls.
Really? Okay. Well, that's going to be good.
So anyway, he's kind of a legendary guy. I'm fired up.
Another one I haven't seen, but
oh, you haven't seen The Alligator People?
So excited to see it.
You are going to hate me.
I mean, no, never. I mean, with a title like The Alligator People, Lon Chaney.
Oh, yes. You gotta love it.
I think this is
it's kind of Jekyll and Hyde too, except it involves an alligator instead.
Alligator and Hyde.
This is streaming currently on the Classic Horror and the Wicked Horror channels. Mm-hmm. So right up our alley.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
All righty. Well, plenty of ways to stay in touch. Everybody, please send feedback. We love the feedback. We've been getting a few from new listeners because I keep saying, "Come on, guys, we want to hear."
Yeah.
Correct us, add information, ask us questions, make suggestions, tell us
how long it is before we
Yeah,
try to
there's no way this is a review. Okay, it's a Vivai section, but I'm not putting that on the title. So yeah, leave comments here on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel and or the Facebook group, Gruesome Magazine's H&R and DOH podcast Facebook group, or even the website at gruesomemagazine.com. All right. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror film, as only decades of horror can do it. Thank you both. And Chad, hopefully we'll see you next time. Say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.